All right, what's going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be covering rankings, specifically AJGA rankings, and how to boost your rankings faster. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. This is all we cover. We cover junior golf and how to develop to play college golf. So if you relate to that, if you're a parent of a junior golfer, if you're a junior golfer yourself, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Come out with videos like this every single week. If you're coming back, welcome back. Excited to have you. And this is going to be a really fun topic for us to kind of dive into today. We're going to be going into the weeds here of like what specifically, we want to be focusing on within AJGA rankings and kind of how that relates to, being one of the best players in the country. Because at the end of the day, like the best players in the country are ranked on the AJGA Rolex rankings. It's not the primary ranking system that I push out there. I'm a big fan of Junior Golf Scoreboard as kind of your primary evaluation on where you are related to college golf. But this video is really one for the elite players, the players watching these videos who are, ranked as one of the top players in their class, and they're wondering, how do I expand on that? Or maybe you're a younger junior golfer, you have a younger junior golfer, maybe they're 12, 13, 14 years old, they're elite, and they're ready to take that to the next level. They're like, all right, cool, what's up ahead? Or maybe you're watching this video and you're just kind of curious. So all those, everyone in those buckets is going to be satisfied in this video. And as always, if you guys enjoy the video, please leave a like or a thumbs up. It really helps push it out to more people. Doing more of these Loom videos, since it seems like you guys like it. And just let me know in the comments if there's any other topics you guys want me to cover. I'll be happy to dive into them. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So if you go to ajga.com, you'll see rankings right here. You just click on that and it'll take you to this page here. I'm just going to go ahead and let the little loady thing do its thing. And so you'll see boys ranking, girls ranking, and that might be kind of like where your search has ended in the past, or if you even made it to this page. But I want to start with a few other things first. So AJGA uses a concept of points as part of their ranking system. So you might be familiar with stars. That's where most families and kids get hung up. It's kind of like the first problem with AJGA is let's get into events. How do we get into events? Oh, we have to go through these qualifiers. Oh, I can't get through a qualifier. I can't get into a qualifier. It's like those are smaller problems, and by all means, that's something that I help players with. The vast majority of students, most players are not at this level. But this video is for the players who are past that point is their primary focus. So we need to start familiarizing ourselves with the points system. And this is really going to be best. I should have said this at the beginning, but this is really going to be best for players who already have AJGA exempt status. That's really where this is going to take off. So if you're watching this video and your child has exempt status, get out the notebook. This is going to be tremendously valuable for you. So let's go ahead and jump into this here. So points, they've got their little accordion on how rankings work and all that stuff. But points are how they determine which tournaments are better than others. So I'll kind of start you off here. What tournaments are locked at 225 point level? The way to understand that is essentially these are the majors of junior golf. And to kind of validate that point, just so you guys can kind of see these, we got Carlton Woods, we've got Ping Invitational, we've got Junior Players, we've got the AJGA Invitational, we've got Tournament of Champions, Team TaylorMade, Wyndham Invitational, and then you're also going to see some other ones that are non-AJGA events. You definitely want to make use of these. The Junior PGA, Sage Valley, one of the most difficult and prestigious tournaments to be in, the US Junior, and the Western Junior. Those are all the events that are essentially your junior golf majors. A lot more options than on the PGA Tour. In the PGA Tour, you get 4 options. I think women's golf is 4 or 5. Professional golf, anyway. But let's look at the best players in the country. Let's take Logan as an example here. What tournaments are they playing in? Junior Players, Junior PGA, Western, Team TaylorMade, Scott Robertson, Dustin Johnson, Carlton Woods. Let's look at another one. Miles Russell, Tournament of Champions, Elite Invitational, Ping Invitational, Junior Players, Junior Amateur, Team TaylorMade, Sage Valley, Carlton Woods, some random event. Let's look at Blades here. Tournament of Champions, Junior Players, Junior PGA, Sage Valley, Dustin Johnson, Carlton Woods. Hopefully you guys are kind of seeing the pattern here. Now, again, these are the best players in the country. Jones Cup, which we'll see in a second. Tournament of Champions, Ping Invitational, Junior Players, Junior PGA, Western Junior, Team TaylorMade, and a couple other ones. So again, you guys can kind of see this, as we go down this list, and as we look at players who are ranked higher, they're more exclusive about these tournaments, just simply put. And they also have better scoring average, to be fair. But for the most part, the biggest kind of thing you're going to see is they're playing in better tournaments. So before we go too far into this, your child isn't already in tournaments shooting better than 74, which they should be. If they've got an AJGA exempt status, they're going to have that. But just to be clear, that is a big part of this. Is foundationally, we need to have the scores. If we don't have the scores, this is a worthless video for you to watch. But if you have the scores, then this is going to be really valuable. So let's go back to this. So we got the 225 events. Hopefully you guys can see based on kind of that walkthrough. It's these are the best events in the country. This is what the best players play in. But then we have a bunch of other events as well. So they have this little accordion. What tournaments have minimum point value? So all minimum point value is it's saying based on the type of tournament, what's the minimum value I can get for this? What's the minimum number of points that this is going to be worth? So open events, AJGA opens, you might have heard that term before, have a minimum point value of 40 points. Now, what you're going to see down below here is you're going to see a bunch of AJGA opens that are worth more than 50 points. Okay. Same thing's true for, senior events. So let's say your child's playing an event and they're a senior and they're trying to get extra exposure. It's an option. Junior All-Stars, 20 points. There are Junior All-Star events with more than 20 points. But again, this is just non-AJGA tournaments that are actually ranked 20 points. Wouldn't think too much about that. Previews, 15 points, 10 points. You guys get the picture. You do not need to worry or consider points realistically until your child has exempt status. Just to be completely fair here. The probability that they're going to have exempt status the probability that they're going to be in a position where their points would be at all relevant without having exempt status, I would say, is incredibly low. Partially because a lot of these tournaments here, these are invitationals. So you can't just say, let me just go sign up for Carlton Woods. That seems like a good tournament. It's no, you have to get invited to these events. And so in order to get invited, your ranking has to be good enough. And in order for your ranking to be good enough, you need to be able to play in enough events. But the other thing I was going to say is these events do not count toward that 5 tournament limit, which you guys are probably familiar with if you're watching this video to this point. You can only play in 5 AJGA open events. You can only play in 4 Junior All-Star open events. But what you guys will actually find when we look at the rankings is a lot of the highest ranked players are actually playing in significantly more than 5 AJGA events. And that's a product of 2 things. Number 1, they're playing in these events. And number 2, they're playing in non-AJGA events as well. So one of the ones you guys saw was, Jones Cup Invitational, non-AJGA. So it doesn't count toward that 5, minimum, but we still get points for it. Let's see if we can find another one here. Dustin Johnson, we saw that one a bunch. Non-AJGA, but it counts toward those points. Let's see if we can find any other ones just off the top to continue to hammer in this point that we actually saw here. KJ Choi was another one. You guys, it's on a non-AJGA event, but you guys saw one of the players actually did play in that event. So again, 100 points for that particular event. I think that makes a pretty good case. Okay, Scott Robertson Memorial is another one that I was looking for. So another one, non-AJGA event, worth 100 points. So anyway, hope you guys get the picture here. This is kind of a way that you could create a hierarchy for yourself. It's just saying, out of all the tournaments we could play in, if we could play in every tournament possible, or if we had the option to play in any tournament possible, which tournaments do you guys think would be better to play off? Assuming that you can play as well as possible, you'd probably want to play in the better tournaments. It's just fairly straightforward, right? If we could only play in a set number of tournaments, so we're going to want to play in the best ones, right? And so, if you've got a junior golfer who has exempt status, that's a real question you should be asking yourself. Is obviously, what limitations do you have as far as travel that is even realistic for you? But assuming, let's say we're in a scenario where travel doesn't matter. Well, then we're going to want to prioritize the best events possible to show, give ourselves the best chance of presenting ourselves in the best way possible. Versus if you just play a bunch of random Mickey Mouse tournaments with 6,300 yards or 6,500 yards, especially for the boys out there. To be clear, for the girls, those are long golf courses, but for boys, you guys get what I'm saying here. It just doesn't set yourself up for success. So you go out there and shoot 69. It's not really that impressive, as opposed to you go to some of these golf courses and you shoot 71. So it's a really impressive score, even 74, a really impressive score. And a lot of the stuff that, is going to come down to like why you score is not going to be really based on like how long golf course is, especially amongst better players. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Now, you might be asking yourself, all right, great. So we got this point system, but like how do the points get assigned? Like what does it even mean? Like how does that work? So there's this, you can actually download the spreadsheet. You just click the link here. I already pulled it up. But it shows you based on the finish position and the number of points for the tournament, how many points your child would earn if they performed well in this. And the first time that I came across this information, my thought process was, well, we want to make sure we're always playing in the best tournaments possible. And that's going to optimize, even if we don't shoot the best scores, we're playing the best tournaments, there are most points available, therefore theoretically we're going to have the highest opportunity to get the most points. I have since changed my thinking on that. I do not think that anymore because let's look at this. 40 points, if you guys recall, if you win an AJGA Open, that's a 40, just like your standard run-of-the-mill AJGA Open, you get 40 points. That's, hopefully you guys can kind of see that. I know the spreadsheet's kind of small. Now, if we could compare that to a 225-point event, do you think it's easier to win an AJGA Open event, just like a random AJGA Open event, or come in 8th in the US Junior? I don't know about you guys, but I think it's easier to probably win an AJGA event than come in 8th in the US Junior. We got to go through match play like that. That's brutal. Like that's really hard. So that's just something to consider here. It's like just because we're playing into Carlton Woods and you were into that event does not mean that if we just shoot some ho-hum whatever score that we're gonna win the tournament or something like that. Like all those players are really, really good. Like you're probably going to have to shoot significantly under par over 3 days or 4 days in order to be successful and win that tournament. As opposed to an AJGA Open event. I mean, I would say you probably win an AJGA Open event, to shoot a couple under par versus, a Carlton Woods, like you're probably going to have to shoot significantly under par, probably, in the, -6, 7, 8, 9 range. I mean, I'd have to look it up to know exactly, but hopefully you guys kind of get that. I mean, to come in first in the US Junior, it's like you're probably shooting like 63, 62, 64, something in that range on a really hard golf course. So it's like, if you guys are kind of thinking to yourselves, well, how do we play in the best tournaments possible? It's like, I wouldn't worry about that until your child has exempt status, because again, like once they're in that position, then it makes sense to be like, okay, well, what do we need to do in our game in order to be able to not just average like, whatever, 74 or 73, which might have gotten you exempt status. How do we get to 71 or 70, which is what you'll see like a lot of these, elite players, like let's pull up Logan again here. The scoring average is 70.7. I mean, this is elite stuff. If you look at Blades here, 70.9. Let's look at another one. 70.5 again. So this is like the top level. And so again, like, this is something I talk about in my other videos. This is something I do in my coaching program, but it's really important that we understand the math behind whatever we're trying to accomplish, right? If we want to improve our rankings, we need to know the math. We need to look at this stuff. We need to know how this can all fit together. We also need to understand probabilities. So it's like, again, if I put myself in different types of events, what's the probability that works out for me as well as possible, right? We need to consider all that stuff. But with the math, it's like, if you track your statistics, like I talk about in my other videos, then you can objectively say and be like, well, I'm really good right now. I've got a 73 scoring average, but like, I want to get to 70. What do I need to do specifically? It's like, okay, cool. Well, right now you're hitting 67% of your greens. And if we could get you to 71 or 72% of your greens, well, that might take off half a shot or almost probably 0.6 shots right there. Or, maybe it was a situation where it's like, hey, we need to be a little bit more disciplined on par fives. We're being a little bit too aggressive on par fives. We're just a little bit more disciplined. It's not going to hurt our birdie rate because we're going to hit a few more greens. And that's going to put us in a better position, right? That might be a scenario. It might be a scenario where you look at your birdie conversion range. Like, man, I do not convert enough, birdies. Okay, cool. Then we might need to look at your green reading. We might need to look at your putting from, 10 to 15 feet. We might need to get you on some drills there. We might need to increase distance off of the tee. That's one of the most common ones that people go to. It's not always necessarily true because sometimes you can hit it closer and still not hit the green at a high rate. A lot of players know that one with like trying to hit the distance 60-yard wedge and we hit it fat or thin or something like that. Versus we leave ourselves like a full lob wedge. We hit it perfect. So those are all the things you kind of want to be aware of at the highest level. Again, I've got a coaching program for that. So if that's something you guys want help with or any of this stuff, if you guys are watching this and you're just like, man, like we need to actually, get help as far as like which tournaments we need to playing in. If your kid's already shooting like those kind of low scores, then there's an application link below. Just fill that out. And if you guys are qualified, you'll be able to book a call and we can go over, make sure that's a good fit for you guys. But anyway, back into the video here. This is the ranking spreadsheet. So you guys can get this just off of the AJGA site here. Bonus points just for specific events. So, it's just kind of like an add-on multiple, and this will make a little bit more sense for going over the rankings here. So 30 points for playing in the US Junior. Well, I guess for the medalist. So that's kind of cool. And then you got a few other bonus points here. Nothing really too crazy. There's All-American thing. In my opinion, it's not really that important. It's like maybe it like boosts you a little bit with like coaches, but I mean, plenty of kids are going to get recruited by fantastic programs that aren't on the All-American team. So that's more of just like a little like feather in your cap type of thing. So let's go ahead and dive into rankings here. All right, cool. So what you guys are going to see is obviously, the players who are ranked best, and it's not exactly the same as Junior Golf Scoreboard. You guys will see that. So, our boy Logan is ranked a little bit better than he was on Junior Golf Scoreboard. Does that really affect things? Is where he got recruited? I don't think so. He's third in Junior Golf Scoreboard, and he's sixth on, he's third on AJGA, he's sixth on Junior Golf Scoreboard. Do you think Auburn really cares whether he's third or sixth? I don't think so. I mean, Auburn's one of the best programs in the country, but I mean, like, I don't think there's a big difference there. If one of you guys wants to fight me on that, then okay. But I mean, just common sense here. It's like it's not really that big of a difference. These players are all pretty dang similar. But let's look at Logan here. So right off the rip here, we're going to see that Logan played in 7 events. As you guys, I kind of stated, you can only play in 5 AJGA Opens, which means he did not play in the AJGA Opens alone. Right. So what do we see? Junior players, Invitational. Junior PGA, non-AJGA event. Western Junior, non-AJGA event. Both of these are 225 events. TaylorMade Invitational, boom. Scott Robertson Memorial, non-AJGA event. And the Dustin Johnson, same thing, non-AJGA event. And it looks like he won the Scott Robertson Memorial. So, he didn't do, it wasn't quite as like elite tier as some of these other events, but he won it. So, I mean, that's obviously, he got the most points from this. Because even though these are like technically better events, even like the Team TaylorMade Invitational, like he shot 64, 70, 71 versus 68, 69, 69. I mean, this is arguably he shot a better score in this event, but he finished third. He got less points than winning the Scott Robertson. So again, like all you guys, like if you're worried about like, oh, I need to travel all over the country to make sure I'm in like the best possible event possible. It's like, no, like you don't need to do that. You just need to shoot good scores. And you just need to do your best and give your child, an opportunity to put themselves in a position where, if you look at all these events that he played in, he's had some tournaments where he did better than other tournaments, right? I mean, if you look at, let's just look at all the three-day events here. I mean, look at this one, right? So we got Carlton Woods, like by his standards, it wasn't the best. Dustin Johnson, even worse than that, right? So it's just like not the best by his standard. Again, this is obviously excellent golf. I'm not here to criticize Logan. But just like considering this is like when he gives himself the opportunity to play in more events, he has a higher probability of having a few rounds that are good, right? So if we just like looked at these individual ones, so we got 212, 205, 206, 220, 216, right? Like those are his 2-day events. And if you just kind of consider that, it's like, well, yeah, you're going to have your day where you shoot 220 and you're going to have your day where you shoot 205. And if you do that enough times, like you're going to have a probability of winning at some point, right? And so in his case, he won at 206. He didn't win when he shot his best score. And so again, like if you're evaluating, kind of looking back on your day, like you might say, oh, well, I'm glad that I won that event, which is fantastic. Got a lot of points for it. But it's also like, it wasn't even the best golf necessarily that he played. Now it could have been difficult conditions, so on and so forth. I don't want to like dismiss that, but just like helping you guys think about this. It's important that you focus on the scoring end of this and just have like this tournaments as like background thing. Is like once you have your tournament schedule, you're done. Like just go play in the tournaments as best you can, but giving yourself a chance or giving your child a chance to have enough opportunities to be successful, right? If we only go and play one round of golf, it's like you can play good, you can play bad. It's kind of a coin toss. But if we play a bunch of rounds of golf we're going to have a very good representation of where your child is as a golfer. And that can be a good thing. Or, if you guys don't have a lot of data and you're not really sure, that can be a revealing thing, right? And again, I've got plenty of other videos where I go over the data and the statistics that go into that stuff. Again, if you want help, you got my program. But anyway, that is just kind of like the perspective here. Now for him, he got bonus points. He got bonus points for, I don't know what he got bonus points for. Is there a way that we can see that? I don't know. I'm sure we could go back to wherever the case is. Maybe he won something. But regardless, he's got 442 points. He's going to be divided by 7 events. Now, for all you guys here who are like, that's cool, Connor, I'm still going to do my 5, or I've got my 5, but my number on my average points is not that. Bingo. Your minimum divisor is going to be 6. So if you're kind of mapping this out and be like, well, I'm playing all the AJGA tournaments that I can, why isn't my thing as good as it could be? It's like, because you didn't play in a non-AJGA event. So you need to have those in your calendar if you're serious about this. So that's, your Western Junior, Scott Robertson Memorial, Dustin Johnson World Junior. Junior Worlds is an easy one to get to. Junior PGA, US Junior, like all of those would satisfy that criteria. And there's a ton on that list. Jones Cup is another one. I just want to pick the ones that make the most sense for your child and gives them the highest probability of getting into. And honestly, try and get into a few of them. Anyway, you want to get this thing high enough. Once you're over 6, it doesn't really matter if you have more than 6. It's not, they're always divided by 6. It's like if you play in 10 events, it'll be divided by 10. Hopefully you guys can see that though. Bonus points, wouldn't worry too much about that. If it happens, it happens, but it's not a big deal. But that's really how this system works. Now, the last thing that I want to throw in here is the invitational criteria, because I've talked a lot about these kind of like 225 events. I want to make sure you guys have a clear perspective. It took me a while to find this page, to be honest. It's not something that AJGA does a great job of advertising. So anyway, if you just look up, AJGA invitational criteria is the language that you want to use, and it'll show these different events. So we got like AJGA coming up, top 47 girls based on Rolex rankings. Carlton Woods, top 64 boys based on Rolex rankings. Top 65 girls based on Rolex rankings. Top 60. Now, you guys are also going to see, you guys can read, but you guys are also going to see this additional tournament spots. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom here, we're going to see additional spots. So actually, hang on one second. So there's another slide here. U.S. team eligibility, President's Cup. All right, cool. All right, so here, I just didn't read this right. So they're obviously, they can do whatever they want. It's their company. The subsequent invitations will be sent using the most current revision of AJGA rankings and be reflected in the invitational priority list available after the initial application deadline. Invitation priority lists are available on the AJGA rankings homepage, whatever. Point being is like, if you're not in this, 64, this top 64, then whatever's left is going to go to whoever's next in line. Kind of like the stars thing. If you apply, then great. If you're, at that level, you're going to get the invitation instead of having to apply. Pretty much the same concept though. So it's like, if you're sitting there and you're looking at your rankings here, and let's scroll to the next page. You're like, all right, cool. I want to get into Carlton Woods. Let's look at, Pavel here. Well, he's ranked 82nd, right? Still pretty good. But he's not going to get that invitation unless we have enough people drop out of that event or not want to play in that event that he's going to get his invitation. Relatively straightforward, but it pays to just put yourself, out here. So again, for him, he's got 8 events that he's played in. This was a great event for him to win. That was another AJGA event here. But anyway, you guys can kind of see here, for him, he just hasn't played quite as good as Logan did. But again, we're looking at his stuff, a little bit different profile, but pretty dang similar. Jones Cup, not the cream of the crop, but still pretty good. Arnold Palmer Invitational, very good, but not cream of the crop. US Junior, very good. Finished pretty well in there. But again, like 6.8 for that finish. I mean, like that's really solid. Like 71, 72 in the US Junior, like that's really good. 6.8 points here versus like if you played an AJGA Open and you finished 8th, like you would have gotten more points for that. And I bet you in an AJGA Open, you shoot 71, 72, you're going to probably be close to 8th or better. So anyway, don't psych yourselves out too bad. You got this 81 here on the Western that kind of shot him in the foot, on the better tournaments. Southern Junior, solid tournament. AJGA Invitational, solid. But you guys can kind of see the point here. It's like you want to play in the best tournaments possible, obviously. And as you kind of go further down this list, you're just kind of going to be playing lower priority tournaments. And the way that you work yourself through those is you just shoot better scores. It's like if you went into every single one of these events, like let's just say you won every AJGA Open that you played in, theoretically, was that like 160 points or something like that? Like you're going to accelerate your improvement, or your improvement in your rankings, like pretty rapidly, especially when you consider it's like, all right, cool. We also have to play in a non-AJGA event, which is intrinsically going to be worth, a substantial amount of points relative to your kind of standard AJGA Open. It makes a lot of sense, where it's just go out there and shoot the best scores possible in order to max out, this ranking system. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys in kind of understanding, like, here's what it actually looks like. Here's what path is. A lot of it, again, boils down to just like knowing this stuff and then being able to lower those scores predictably. Again, that's going to come down to being able to use statistics, in my opinion. If you guys want to go ahead and do that blind, like, by all means. I don't think it has a high probability of working out. I think if you're doing that, you're just essentially like hoping things work out, which I think is kind of a dumb idea. I think if you're watching this and you have a child who's successful in junior golf, you're paying to go to all this stuff, you probably succeeded pretty well in life, and that that's not how stuff works. It's like you got to go out there and you got to measure stuff, and you got to know like where you're going. You be really clear and be like, here's what we need to do in order to make that happen. So that's why I build my whole program around that. If that's something you're interested in learning more about, how your child can use data and statistics to be able to really make sure that they're scoring as well as possible, they're putting their focus in the right spot, so they're improving as fast as possible, so that they can launch themselves up this ranking system and ultimately be able to go to an excellent program, get the scholarship, all that fun stuff. If you're interested in that, go ahead, click the link to apply below. Check it out. You can talk it over. Again, if it's not a good fit, it's no big deal. But again, it'll just give you another perspective, another option for you. And as you guys probably know, having more options allows you to make better decisions. So once again, hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.